territorio, ovviamente occorre una modalità operativa, occorre una modalità organizzativa che è diversa da quelle delle grandi squadre che da una parte hanno un supporto economico, hanno un grosso appeal dal punto di vista della pubblicità, però dal punto di vista sociale, dal punto di vista educativo, dal punto di vista del mantenimento della salute dell'atleta e indirettamente delle famiglie che hanno bambini, genitori, eventualmente. No, I think that someone has difficulties to understand what I said, or do you prefer to have? Ok? Dicevo, questi sono gli aspetti di carattere generale. Nei mesi scorsi, quando con la FISA abbiamo fatto la prima ricerca, la prima attività, tanto per definire delle linee guida e degli strumenti per supportare questa migrazione, ci siamo confrontati, molti di noi abbiamo lavorato per mesi insieme e quello che è emerso e che vorrei un attimo condividere con voi e che sarà oggetto di approfondimento è che la causa principale della limitazione del trasferimento delle modalità dall'agonismo allo sport per tutti.
So talking about the topic of sport for all as getting new experiences, fundings, and all understanding all the variables that can be applied to a common problem. That's the lack of competence and training of the different players. So here I have some items on which we could dwell. Our working group as a project has analyzed a given number of action plans. That is, we have annual plans, 2-year plans of the federations to see how the federations are operating and how they've planned the activities that are targeted to the transferring of the playful activity, the motor activity, to leverage the sports context as an educational, enlarged context, as tools to recover physically after given pathologies, if these are, of course, pathologies that can be recovered, that are propedeutics in order to prevent mental or physical impairment. And so we have realized that there is an action plan. Of course, we are still waiting for the validation of some figures, but I can tell you for sure that out of 45 projects that we have analyzed, only 38 could be classified as projects. Out of these, only from 24 to 34% had the targets set. So we need to promote sports, but they were not the right numbers. They were not the right accountabilities, or the target was not identified. This means that upstream there was no actual knowledge of the external context, and it was just taking into account the competition sphere of sports. Going on to the action plan even further, we see that there is a drastic drop to 24% So 1 out of 4, that as a project, it has identified the objectives, that is what we need to do to perform a certain kind of activity. And 4.2% have identified the persons in charge of the project. So with this situation, of course, there is the need, and at the international level, we have European funds, we have organizations. The FISA is bringing forward this path to solve this situation that is general and shift this context in the sports for all framework with the right modalities and with the right population that is the beneficiary of the ultimate beneficiary. So we need to identify a model of reference, but there is a lack of competencies. I'm sorry to say that, but as an adult, as an aged person, that's the real problem. So I believe, and here maybe if you are so kind, you can share your experiences of the sports situation in your countries so that we can understand the very root cause. Because in these meetings, well, we are just a few, and maybe it's because just a few of us has really understood the importance of this activity. Thank you, Giorgio. I would like to thank Giorgio Barone for this introduction, and also as his propositive and critical approach as for the initiatives in these sectors, which require a constant focus, a constant attention on behalf of the world of the institutions. Here, before giving the floor to you, I would like to underline the importance of non-competitive sports and sports activities in general, non-competition sports, for the culture of the territory and for the growth, the sustainable development of the territories. Talking with representatives of the different sports and traditional games, I can feel that there is a great rediscovery of the environment, the valorization of the environment. And so a culture that would help keeping the attention alive for the care for the territory. That's a great opportunity for outdoor sports practices and also for tourism development. Traveling, visiting places is part of these traditional games and sports we're going to talk about, because you are also the protagonists of this day. And I thank FIGES and FISA because they play a very important role. So development of the territories, preservation of our culture also as a European culture that is made up of a sense of belonging and rediscovery of these values related to the authenticity of an association-based approach in the sports sector. Living together also implies not only a spontaneous action by associations that are following the interests of people and caring for the interests of people, not only on the professional level. The management of free time is very important, especially for the young, the new generations, because these new generations quite often are not practicing these sports because there is not a suitable promotion of these activities. And FIGES is playing a pivotal role in this regard because it is carrying forward this flag with TAFISA and others. So physical and psychological health of European citizens goes through this. It's an important moment for the development of our communities. That's why I would like to introduce the topic, talking about the different sports. We're calling the representatives that are here attending today, coming from all over Europe. And in my agenda, I can see the first, Dirk Nasser. Are you here, Dirk? We don't have him. So we have Portugal, represented by Sousa Alexandro. No? Jorge Carballo. Sorry for the pronunciation. Jorge.
Sì, magari se ce l'hai, perché mi hanno dato un elenco.
Tranquillo, ci penso io.
Voi
So you can start talking about your experiences and the sports and games that you are practicing. It's very important to have your testimony, also to be inspired from your experiences.
Jorge, I come from Portugal, me and my colleagues and friend Luis Cid, and thanks for the invitations. We have a brief presentations, and we'll do the presentations together with Luis. Okay. Okay, thanks again. And our proposal will begin with the framework. And after the second point is about the values and outcomes about the traditional sport and games, and in general in sport, and research and training. My colleagues and friend Luis is a director of in the high school in the Santarém for the license in sport. Portugal, as you know, is the oldest state in Europe with more than 8th century. But we are the young democracy, and our sport is after the revolution in 74 is with the new democracy. About the framework of traditional sport and law, in Portugal, it was recognized by the police, by law. You have financial support, technical knowledge, material, and human resource support, and you have the participation. For example, the first basic law recognized traditional games and sport as a sport activity between in the other sport, Olympics and non-Olympics, as a part of a cultural heritage, and the government, the state, is responsible also for traditional games and sport at the governmental level, but you have the umbrella organization for non-governmental. And you have the development at national level in the 3 levels, according to our administrative law at national level, regional level, and local level. As well, you have the transsectorial cooperation between other sectors in the state, like education, health, tourism. We'll show later that the satellite sport accounts, you have also in the tourism, in the sea, you have some evidence about the sport. And you have till now, you have three basic laws in sport. All these laws recognize traditional games and sport. In Portugal, is a few states of the European Union have the sport satellite accounts, and sport represent 2 points in the GVA, and for the employment, 1.4. And as well, you have some data about the volunteering. In Portugal, the volunteering represents 7.6. For example, in Germany is 8.3, and in the Finland and Holland, Netherlands is 10. Because the volunteering is very important for sustainability in the economic dimension, social dimension for the development. This is some figures about our sport satellite accounts. You have 5 categories. The first category is the Sport Regulation Institute, like institutions like Olympics and Paralympics, Sport Confederation and Federation at national level, and sport agent institutions. But you have in this figure two important contributions of sport. Is sport related with the sport industry and sport in the economic fields, and the clubs like sport and traditional games is representing about 25% in our GVA. You can make some links with the trends and policies at international level and at European level. Our traditional games and sport have impact in the economy, in the employment, in the voluntary, in the health and in the promotions, health lifestyle, because at European level, you are dealing, as you know, with Eurobarometer, with the problem of inactivity, obesity at world level with the World Health Organization, and about social inclusions, because we have cooperations with people with and without disability, intergenerational populations, children, and all those people. As well, all the resource is a natural resource, and you have a link with climate and sustainability, as well innovation, digital transformation. Because the resource is natural, but there are some improvement in innovation of all these materials, and development at regional and local level. About some evidence, as you know, according with the United Nations World Tourism Organizations, sport have more travels than the tourism. As you can see here in Perugia, you have so many European countries, so many people are traveling inside in the Italy and outside, and there are so many consumers. But you have also the impact in the outcomes with health and economic dimension, as well with other outcome like sustainability, with the tourism of the quality, or ethno-tourism, because the traditional games and sport in the trends for the future is the tourism is customized, is tailored according of the profile of the tourist. Luis, you spoke in our about investigations.
Okay. my name is Wishid. I'm from Sport Science School of Rio Maior, and our institution is the recent partner of the Portuguese Federation of Traditional Games. It's my first time I have participated in this kind of events, and our main goal is to help Federation to achieve another structure based on the process of research to build knowledge about traditional games, to improve the structure of the Federation. So in Portugal we have some researchers in this field along of the years. This is some of that examples. We have a good basis to start to work at this moment, because in our school programs, in preschool education and the primary education, we have orientations that we can put inside the traditional games in the expression at physical education in 5 years old children and between 10 years children. So this is a good opportunity because we identify so far 3 main areas to our intervention: research, training, training the professionals in that field, training professors in schools to build programs specific to children, and build some knowledge with research in several areas. The main area that we are interested, and the Federation we are interested, is the sport science, in the specific area of physical activity and health promotion, healthy lifestyles, because we consider that the traditional games are a good basis for achieve a new kind of behavior, more active behavior in children and other persons along of the life. So this is our main goal. You have with also the Portuguese Institute of Sport and Youth, we have a good partnership to build that way. In the future, this kind of event is also important to build networks, to achieve new kind of challenge in the European Union and new funding. So this is the possibilities that we have in the next years, and I hope we can work together too. So this is my presentation. I also want to show you a video about our school, and a small video and I leave my contacts in the end.
Grazie molto, grazie.
Thank you so much. I really warmly thank the representatives from Portugal. This Portuguese experience is really extremely interesting. Not only because there is a focus, a live attention to traditional sports and games aspects, but there is also an integration in the school programs of an educational project dedicated to traditional sports and games. So that's really an important milestone, a model to follow, the Portuguese model. I believe it's a great starting point to debate on the practices, sports practices, outdoor sports practices to enhance the value of cities and places, tourism development that you are attaching a lot of attention. So restarting again. So I would like to thank the Portuguese representatives starting from this experience to now call a testimony from Angel Gomez Navarro, who is the president of the Federation of Traditional Sports of Valencia, so the Spanish experience, in line with the Portuguese one, and then we will go on with the other. There you are. You have the floor.
Katia, tenemos el power, ¿no? Well, my name is Ángel Gómez Navarro, el president de la Games and Sport Tradicional de la Comunitat Valenciana en España. And, també per a no speak in English or speak Spanish. Bon. Hablaremos despacio. Bueno, ¿hay traducción ahora? Giorgio, Katia, ¿tenemos traducción castellano? ¿Sí? Bueno, pues vale. Bueno, Dime. Bueno, como está todo ahí, pues, vale. La Federación de Juegos y Deportes Tradicionales de la Comunidad Valenciana se crea en el año 1996. Dentro de esta federación, nosotros lo que intentamos primero fue realizar competiciones. Competitions. Pero nos dimos cuenta que no solamente la competición era importante, sino más importante aún era la parte cultural y lúdica y educativa. Por eso creamos, en el año 2003, creamos la Escola Autonòmica de Jocs Tradicional, la School, Traditional Games School. Y en esta escuela, en esta school, lo que intentamos fue investigar y poner en valor los juegos tradicionales de la Comunidad Valenciana. Tenemos hecho un pequeño trabajo en el que hemos recogido más de 600 juegos que se juegan en la Comunidad Valenciana. Dentro de la escuela empezamos haciendo la investigación de los bolos de calle, o bowling of street, y vimos que en la Comunidad Valenciana tenemos más de 20 elementos que son del juego de bowling of the street, bolos de calle. Luego también hicimos, en ese trabajo, hicimos una publicación de el AUCA, del bowling AUCA, en el que recogemos el juego de los bolos de calle que ya en tiempo de los egipcios ya parece que se jugaban, pero que en la Comunidad Valenciana tenemos referencias desde el siglo XIII. Y en el año 1460 tenemos una publicación de un famoso escritor valenciano que recoge el nombre del juego. También hemos hecho publicaciones para los escolares, como este Cómo se juega a, que hemos enviado a los colegios de toda la región. Y también hemos hecho un recopilatorio de los juegos de un pueblo, de un pequeño pueblo, en el que, a pesar de ser pequeño, se han jugado y hemos recogido más de 70 juegos que se han jugado en el pueblo. Este es el libro y en él podéis observar que tenemos un juego que es mundial. La lipa, la estornija, el piqui pala, se juega en todos los sitios prácticamente. ¿Qué hemos hecho? Hemos dado cursos en universidades, hemos formado también a profesores en los centros de profesores y también hemos formado a personas de la federación que forman parte de este equipo del Team Monitors de la Escuela Autonómica de Juegos Tradicionales. ¿Para qué? Para llevar el juego a la escuela. The Games to School. The Games from School. Esta es una manifestación que se realizó después de la experiencia escolar en un monasterio que tiene mucha importancia para el pueblo valenciano. Y en ella podemos observar la final del juego de la trompa, que los portugueses también ayer estuvimos jugando en la plaza. Bueno, pues esta es la final de competition de trompa. Hemos organizado la cultura lúdica, hemos organizado una red de la cultura lúdica valenciana y este es nuestro logo. En el centro tenemos la representación del Gobierno de Valencia y tenemos aquí, como podéis observar más o menos, la figura dinámica de una persona en rojo, amarillo, red, yellow and blue, que representan los colores de la bandera de Valencia. Entonces tenemos la red valenciana de juegos. ¿Quiénes pueden estar en esta red valenciana de juegos, de cultura lúdica? Pues pueden estar cualquier entidad. También pueden estar, cualquier entidad de teachers, asociación de games, o también pueblos que tengan un espacio para poder jugar. Y también, a nivel de turismo, tenemos a los hoteles. Pero ya hemos hecho propuestas y tenemos ya hoteles en los cuales se puede jugar. Esta es una zona de juegos en una pequeña población que se llama Benissanó, en el cual tenemos ahí 8 juegos tradicionales que las personas pueden jugar libremente. Están colocadas en una zona de un pequeño bosque. También en los parques, cerca de los lugares donde está la casa de los mayores, de la Anciana House, tenemos también los juegos que se pueden realizar sin tener que realizar una actividad muy fatigada, muy de mucho peso, ¿no? Y entonces hemos puesto juegos que se pueden realizar sin mucho problema. Y en un hotel de 4 estrellas, en Cullera, una zona turística, también hemos organizado la zona de juegos tradicionales, de manera que las personas que van al hotel pueden ya jugar a nuestros juegos tradicionales. Pero ya es una realidad. Y, digamos, la estrella de nuestro programa es la realización, el montaje de un centro expositivo de juegos en un castillo. Tenemos ya la posibilidad de, en una zona habilitada del castillo, donde tenemos la parte de juegos y fotografías de los juegos tradicionales. Entonces, en este apartado, la Escola Autonómica de Juegos Tradicionales, la Game and Sport School, está trabajando para realizar esa puesta en valor de los juegos tradicionales. Ese es nuestro trabajo desde la escuela, que está dentro de la federación. Entonces, pues, muchas gracias, merci, thank you.
Molte grazie, molto bene, grazie. E io ho apprezzato moltissimo la relazione del nostro ospite.
Thank you very much for your speech. Personally, after hearing the Portugal experience, I'm really impressed by the Spanish one, the Valencian community, where they have also university courses for specific traditional games. The traditional game autonomous school that promotes and increases the awareness of Valencian traditions. There are also 4-star hotels where they organize lots of traditional games. There's an exhibition center for these traditional games. They're really very well organized in Valencia. So I congratulate for this experience. This should be a model for us, for Italian people too. Before moving to other speakers, we should have, if you feel like doing that, we have organized a small break over there at the main entrance of this aula magna, this room, and then we go back and we resume. It's going to be a very short, a very brief break, if you agree. Otherwise, we do the break.
Dunque, adesso è previsto l'intervento di Marco Zerbini. Non so se l'abbiamo anche. Abbiamo Marco Zerbini, poi a seguire Simone Rossolini e poi Francesca Terrosi. Ecco, Marco Zerbini è il presidente.
Marco Zerbini is the vice president of FIGEST. We have a distinguished speaker who's going to share with us the Italian experience. FIGEST is an important Italian Federation of Traditional Games and Sports, that he is the leader of this traditional games and sports culture. And he's going to share with us the Italian experience, as I've just said. Good morning, everyone. I greet you all on behalf of President Casadidio, President of FIGEST, who's engaged in other commitments at the moment. I've heard your speeches, and I think that we are all sharing the same problems and issues. I think that traditional sport in Italy is experiencing a flourishing time. We have the chance to spread out our values and culture about these games through social media. Of course, the charm of these games is not yet so strong as in other less traditional games, but they are more and more independent, and they've gained visibility around the world. Mr. Barone said something very right, really right. We are flourishing, we are growing up. We need to find professionals and stakeholders that are skilled and competent in order to face the new era. Traditional sports haven't got anything related to strong and powerful historic backgrounds typical of other sport federations. So we have so many things to find out, so many things to build. We have different doors that we can open, different ways we can go through, different people that can make the difference everywhere in Italy. I thank you very much for being here, and I really hope that you will be able to express your best from your countries, from your cultures, and I thank you again for being here with us.
E adesso
Thank you, Dr. Zerbini. And now I give the floor to Simone Rossolini, who is the president of a well-known sport that is darts. He's one of the responsible people of this sport in Italy. Darts is a popular game. We all know it. Good morning. As far as darts is concerned, it is a popular one, as was already said. It is popular in Umbria, in the Umbria region, but also at a national level. I don't want to talk only about darts. I would like to talk about FIGIST and about how we represent, also from a technical point of view, how we represent FIGIST all over Italy. We have very good relationship with many schools where we represent, and we bring in the schools our sport to make it grow up, to make it spread out. 9,000 members. We can count 9,000 members related to this sport, and 15,000 enrolled people in the games. As far as national involvement is concerned, we can say that there are a lot of teachers that are spreading out a lot of information about this sport, especially as far as students and pupils growing up in every sense of life. The role of traditional sports like darts, and we try to put the roots in order to help individuals to grow up, to find their place in life. So we thank you very much. I thank you, and I greet you all, and I welcome you all here. Thank you.
Rossolini, c'è questa
You said something very important, this deeply rooted culture of traditional sports related to the future of young generations, because we can grow up as young citizens through traditions, through traditional sports. Francesca Terrosi is the next speaker. She is a darts player. My name is Francesca Torrosi, and I'm a darts player. I had the chance and the occasion to be the female coach of the national team that represented Italy at the European Championships that took place in Spain. And we gained a very important role, a position. We were really at the top. I thank FIDERT, the federation that organizes and manages the championships in our country, here in Italy, and FIGIST that is representing us and that is giving us the opportunity to get the recognition by CONI that is in our country representing sports, every kind of sports and Olympic Games too. My experience as a woman is really fantastic. Women within FIGIST as darts players are really representing a great amount of the members, of the players. They've always been there. They've always been playing for a long time. We are, of course, representing less than men are, but we're trying to do our best. The European champion is a woman, and she comes from this region. We hope that the number of women playing darts is going to increase in the future. We hope that this game will be further developed and promoted among women. We thank FIGIST for their support, especially in the last years, and we really wish for the future to be numerous. I think that darts and traditional games in general needs to be protected, promoted, and preserved in the future. So we really are positive and optimistic towards all the federations and stakeholders that are doing their best to support this kind of sports. So thank you very much. I also would like to add a remark starting from darts. Also going back to what FIGIST Vice President said, looking at young generations, at the attention that young generations can give to these traditional sports, the fact that we can visit schools, 9,000 members for darts, so the CONI recognition. So I can say that this is a leading sport among the traditional sports. Visiting the schools and spreading out this traditional sport within the school environment, it is absolutely important and helps us to guarantee continuity, because we start from the past, we are living the present, and we are projecting towards the future. We thank FIGIST because it's protecting and defending these traditional sports and games. Now we're very, we can't wait to hear the Romanian experience by our Romanian speaker.
Hello, I'm Maricela Alexa.
My name is Maricela Alexa from Romania.
Sport for all Romania. I'm glad to be here. It's the second time when I a big part of this project. It's okay. From the start, I'm Maricela Alexa from Sport for All Romania. It's the second time we have Romania in this project. And I'm very lucky to be here because it's the foremost project in our country. We have Federation Sport for All is from 1992, and we have national and international big project, different sport. We have traditional sport, Surca. We came here with Turca. We came here in Italy with free project, one sport named Turca, one game with castle or 9 stone, and one traditional dance, Kalushari, which if don't rain and we can dance, I guess we join to see how energy have this kind of traditional dance. I don't know, for me, is a project who bring the men together, and I make some new friends, and I'm glad to be part of this kind of meeting, because I see your activity, your games, and we can play with you, my team, and I don't know, to share our memories on the media, to see my country and your country, how big and famous is this project. Thank you very much.
Grazie, grazie mille.
Thank you very much, Maricela Alexa. She gave us an interesting input coming from Romania. So through this attention to traditional games and sports, we are reaching an important goal. So we want to be part of a community, to be part of a whole. We are all European citizens. This idea of sharing experiences and memories, our cultural heritage, the need to share it together, to share it with, and be part of something that is bigger. I think that this is very important. Sport, traditional games, traditional sport, for the culture of integration, for the culture of European integration. I think that today we really need it, because before being citizens, national citizens, we are European citizens, and sports are helping us to do that. We are also citizens of the world, of course. Sports help us to be part of a wider, of a bigger community, and we share the same values. The values connected to sports, like brotherhood, welcoming values, sharing values, general well-being, common well-being. We are experiencing a very difficult time with wars in the world and difficult times. So what you have just said, what the speaker has just said, it is really important, because she's reminding us of fundamental values. And I would like to give the floor to Jörg Banev. And we're going to share his German experience. He's going to talk about Frisbee. It is a very important sport. It promotes outdoor life. Some of us have been, some of us has played Frisbee in their life. Hi, everybody.
So first of all, I'm very glad to have the possibility to tell you a little bit. But to be honest, I wasn't prepared for that, so I just made up some notes to tell you about the situation in Germany. Because as far as I know, there is no sport for all association in Germany like in your other countries. But in Germany, there are a lot of very well-organized sport organizations. Just to start from the ground, we obviously have a lot of traditional sports. Every child is playing. Like, these are jumping sports, like we call it witch stairs. It's mondo in Italia, just jumping around with numbers or throwing stones. Rope skipping, all these things are done by children. Also like spinning, even in former times it was much more widespread, but still this is around everywhere. Then we obviously have these kind of sports that Fijist gathers, like we might call it bar sports, like table soccer or darts. This is all organized in small associations that might even not be recognized in Germany. So this organization that FIGES does together, different sports together, is quite interesting. Might be a model also for other countries. What else have we got? For example, Germany is the home country of handball rules. And also Germany is the home country of fistball, which is a very old sport based to the Middle Ages and one of the eldest sports being around. But now, where is fistball organized? It's within the German Gymnastic Association. And also korfball is within the German Gymnastics Association. And also, I just looked it up, what is it called? The gymnastic wheel and also trampoline gymnastic is all within the German Gymnastic Association. So this is kind of a sport for all association, but only for several sports. For example, they also contacted us several years ago and asked, won't Frisbee come to the Gymnastic Association? And we said, no, why should we? So we didn't see any correlation to this. Then again, we have also regional sports that may not be as represented. Maybe the most famous in Bavaria is like finger wrestling. You try to draw your opponent over the table only by finger wrestling. And we got several regional dances, obviously in Bavaria, together with Jodeln, or in Serbia and other regions in East Germany. Folklore dance is all around. There is something like flag hunting in Lower Saxonia. There are many regional sports no one has ever heard about, or kind of a boccia sport, also in northern Germany, Bosseln. All right, many sports. But then again, if we look at the organization in Germany, we have the big German Olympic Sports Association, which has two roles in one. It's the major sport or governing sport body in Germany, and it's also the National Olympic Committee. It's both in one. And what does this mean? German sport in general is directed to Olympic sports. And only last year, recently, we had the first ever vice president of the German Olympic Sports Association, non-Olympic sport representing. That is Oliver Stegemann, and he's coming by lucky chance from acrobatic gymnastics, which is another kind of gymnastics with 3 persons or 2 persons, like in circus. They're building pyramids and such things. And so he was also the first vice president of the German Olympic Sports Bund to visit the World Games, where we, by lucky chance, also had been with flying disc. And so I had to travel to the United States of America this year to the World Games to meet our vice president in person, and that was a blast. That was a great honor and pleasure to meet him and talk to him, because he's also about to foster these non-Olympic sports and also to change the way that sport is paid, because who gets money? Olympic gold medals got money, and everyone else don't get so much money, very little amounts. But now, to come to an end, what is the challenge? And I think that was also promoted in the program at the beginning. If we look at the participation rate, we had this Tafisa World Congress in Slovenia. Slovenia, or Ljubljana as capital, has 7 to 8% of the budget every year dedicated to sport. No other city I know with such amounts of money for sport. And in Germany, it's about taking the participation rate. We have about 1/3 being active in clubs of the population. 1/3 might be active not in clubs, but informally or non-organized. But these are like world champions in training. If you look at skaters or bikers or whatever, or walkers and runners, they are doing so much sport, but not organized in clubs. And now the challenge is to bridge that gap. And this is the challenge for municipalities, and there also the regional sport associations in Germany really consult or drive cities to make programs, to create city spaces that are open for organized club sports, but also open for non-organized sporting for everyone, and maybe lower the level to bridge this gap, to come over to a sport organization, or find the advantages of being in there in terms of organizing, like everything, tournaments, training, and so on. So that is basically what I wanted to tell about German associations. And the major problem is that still this financing goes basically only to Olympic sports. And we should change that. We found out that other countries around, like Netherlands or Switzerland, have changed in terms of honoring participation rates. And this might be a development for the future. And also, we are very proud that Tafisa has its main office in Germany. So maybe this is a good start, that we also soon will have a Sport for All association on our own. Thank you.
Allora, ringrazio tanto il rappresentante.
Let me thank so much the German representative for Frisbee. Said really important things to let us, citizens of the world, the European citizens, all dwell on this, creating places studied ad hoc, dedicated to traditional sports and games. That's the challenge that is facing Germany, where more than 1/3 of the population is interested because they practice these sports. And we also have gymnastic associations that are promoting these sports. And most of all, opening up these spaces to the associations, non-competitive associations, which are not only professionals, but also this is a ground for growth for the whole population interested in sports that are the very life of a population. So thank you for this input that you are providing from Germany. And now I would like to give the floor to Martin Coini, who instead is going to introduce the French experience. No? I'm wrong? I apologize. Martin Coini.
Good morning, buongiorno, bonjour, grüezi miteinander. That's about my Swiss German. I'm actually living in Germany. I'm Austrian citizen, and I'm representing an international association. So how international can it be? The IFAA, the International Field Archery Association, is an organization that has been established 50+ years ago. Its origin is from the North American archery movement that was taking archery out of stadiums into the forests and the fields. So that's where the name is coming from. And it basically followed the tradition of the English roving, which was established in the early 1400s. So yes, we are a traditional sport. We have our roots back in history, and I don't need to elaborate about the historical proofs of archery being one of the oldest sports in the world. Nevertheless, archery is also a modern sport, and it opens to us a huge diversity of how we can play a sport. Now, the IFAA is designed to follow up all the forms and shapes of archery. So we are diversified in a very large degree. We have very traditional formats, and we have high-tech archery. And everything has its place. Now that comes also with a certain level of challenge, as you can imagine. The biggest challenge for us is recognition. It is probably a problem that we're sharing with other sports organizations, We are doing a lot for the community, but we are not able to prove that, to show it to them, and to make it visible. The reason are fewfold. We know that archery is, as we call it, a sport that is quite at the border, at the corner of the major sports that are in focus. We are sitting somehow in the dark. Worldwide, our associations, member associations, have about 4 million members. The US alone, with the National Association, are conducting every year programs at school with more than 4 million pupils joining archery in school. So we are doing a lot for the community. We are transferring values. We are providing basic skills on mobility, on coordination, on discipline. These experiences are made on multiple levels. And I start on the international level. That means coordination amongst different associations. Our membership ranks from very traditional members that have been since the late 60s part of our movement, like England, Sweden, the US, of course, to our youngest members, Trinidad and Tobago, Sri Lanka. They have all their own formats and ways of playing the games, and we are tasked to come up with a format on international level that addresses those traditional sports. So currently we have 2 major formats. The one is called the field archery, and the other one is called the bow hunting. Both reminding us at our history. Field archery is coming from the military way of using bows and arrows, whereas bow hunting is coming, as the name says, from the hunting part. Now we have a third column that I'd like to mention, and that is the traditional games. You can imagine every country that picked up the bow and arrow at once in its history has developed own formats of sport and competitions. And we are currently in a process of identifying these formats. So there is a kind of historical background research necessary that is done. From that, we would like to generate new rounds of traditional archery that are then promoted on a global scale so that everybody can participate and understand what other countries are coming up with or in their history. Talking about the national level, I used to be the president of the German Association, so I feel with my German colleague here about the experiences. It's for us even worse because we've never been recognized by any national governing organization, and that is because of the structure. Germany is a federal country, so sport needs to be organized federal. So in each state you have to have your segment. Being a very small sport compared to others, we have a central organization. So that's just one head organization, and that takes care of the regions. That doesn't fit the picture. So we never got the chance to become part of the German sports system, and by that we never participated on any funds gaining that was possible. It taught us a lesson, which is probably not a bad one, and most of our other associations in the world sharing these lessons. We are self-financed. We know how to finance our sport ourselves. This is giving us the liberty to make our own decisions. And if we are looking the way the world of sport is taking, let's be honest. The money goes to those sports that are popular, that can achieve media time and make a lot of presence in the public. They are attracting sponsors and sponsorship, and with that, the interest is on these sports. For us, we found it will be a massive problem to become a popular sport. We would have to dedicate and leave some of our principles. And by that, the decision was to go on and to proceed as we are. For the regional level, our clubs, this has the consequence that they have to find their own way of surviving and making sure that they are getting their infrastructure financed, and that is achieved by hosting events, organizing tournaments, making the sport accessible to the public, and sharing the sport on a commercial base with people that are looking for recreational activities. So-called micro-adventures that are promoted in the tourism industry currently are becoming more and more important, especially when you go into the mountain regions, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, North Italy. You find a lot of commercial operated field ranges that are there for tourists to play the sport. Even on Tenerife and Mallorca, on the islands, you find these ranges. That leads us into the next area of that sport and that facet that is for us important. That's the cooperation with the commercial part of our sport. Manufacturers, tourist industry, event organizers, and of course the commercial clubs. Like fitness clubs, you have also commercial clubs that are offering archery to people that are interested but don't want to have the equipment, come pay for an hour or two, and then they leave again. There is another facet to that sport, as you might imagine, and that comes from the therapy, from the medical part of using archery. Archery is quite popular in medicine for recovery, for certain motions and movements and mobility, and also in the psychological part, when people have had burn-down syndromes. Archery is used to regain self-confidence and the control on motions and control on activities. And we have also observed the positive influence of our sport on people that are suffering from certain diseases like Parkinson or Alzheimer. The archery has a second name is the mental game, because it involves a lot of mental activities. And so it helps people to maintain their mental stability and their brain functions. Now, all of this requires quite some educated and experienced coaching and guidance. And this is where we are coming into the field of challenges. The challenges that we are facing are that we are competing on the time. Think about yourself. You got a day that has 24 hours. How many hours of the day are you taking for sleep? Okay, 7 to 8. My daughter would claim 10. So there is a certain duration of the day that you're sleeping. Then we got our work life. How many hours are we spending for work life? Are we talking about 8 hours? Are we talking about 10 hours? Those who are commuting will say, well, it's going to be about 10 hours, even more than that. Now let's do the math. We got the 8 hours, we got the 10 hours, so that's 18 hours. There's 6 hours left. And these 6 hours should allow for domestic duties, for socializing, for information gathering and communication, for the personal welfare, and other interests. Yeah. Now tell me, how can we establish the priority high enough that people come to our sport. And I think that's not a problem of archery, it's a general problem. So I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Sport needs to go to and become a part of our work life. It used to be. Some of us do remember that big companies have established sport groups to have company sport. And we need to find our way back to that, to gain more time for people to participate on sports. Perhaps we have to make the sport a little bit smaller and more flexible. Perhaps we have to find ways where they can use a small break to participate on sport and have some fun. Next challenge are competences and skills. Now, I mentioned it earlier. Our sport requires a lot of things, and that is mobility, it's the mental setting, and we have sport-specific skills and non-sport-specific skills. How can we identify the level a person is in? When they start with the sport first, or when they are continuing on the sport, or coming back after a couple of years of being inactive. How can we train our coaches that they identify it correctly? They identify perhaps disabilities and work on programs to help people with these disabilities. Inclusion is just one aspect of that. And one portion that people always underestimate is the administration of sport. Yes, sport on its own cannot exist because it requires framework. And that administration is becoming more and more complex. If we're looking at our national regulations, how to run a club, how to deal with the tax authorities, you need to have studied already tax laws to run a club, and that can't be. There has to be a lower level for our officers to run organizations that do sports for all, that are providing a service to the community. Now let's talk a little bit about staffing and the structures in organization. You all know that we are facing a huge discrepancy between volunteers, elected honorary officers, part-time employees and full-time employees. The issues there are quite significant. How do we attract volunteers? That's the first question. The second question is, how can we assure that people that we are electing have the competence that we hope for? How can we give part-time employees proper guidance if we don't have full-time employees that are supervising them? And if we have full-time employees, how do we manage the interaction between the full-time employees and the volunteers? Because the full-time employees working 9 to 5, Monday till Friday. The volunteers are available Saturday, Sunday. How shall they work with each other? Obviously, when we joined Tafisa 10 years ago, we had certain levels of expectation, things that we wanted to learn, and we're still hoping that we find ways that we jointly can develop these things. How can we train non-sport specific skills? I know in Germany, for example, the German sport organization is offering courses that can be attended by sport organizations and officers from sport organizations that are within their group of sports. Those being not part of that system have not the access to this information. In other countries, it's even worse. If we go, for example, to Spain, our Spanish National Field Archery Association is told that they should not compete with the Olympic Archery Association, which is a complete different sport. Now, there is good news for them, bad news for the Olympic movement. The European community is challenging this monopoly of sport organizations per se. But what does it mean? Are we now making a benefit and others are suffering? That's not our intention. And I think everybody would agree, the sport as such requires much more attention than it has currently. So we need networking amongst each other. We are not competing amongst each other, but we should help each other. And I look at TAFISA as being one of the governing bodies to coordinate these networking exercises. And we should share specialized resources. Everybody has people that have certain expertise, certain skills, knowledge. Let's find a platform where we can exchange this information, making specialist training courses. Yeah? That is what I would hope for in the near future to see developing. And coming to a conclusion at the end, I need to say that being here has been a very eye-opening experience. Not only that I saw many other sports that are very interesting, but I also met a lot of people that have the same mindset, bringing things forward. And that's what I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. E Martin Coini, che è tedesco per...
Martin Coini is German-based, the president of the International Field Archery Association. That's a very important sport, archery in the woods. And we also have an Italian exponent of this sport who is going to take the floor later on. And it has told us many important things, referring to his international association that has a wide-ranging footprint. He has explained many important aspects of this playful, non-competitive sports activity, an aspect that is also a medical, therapeutical level because it reduces muscle deterioration or impairment, and it also explained the importance of the organization at a global scale of TAFISA, and also a keyword, networking. I wrote it down. He referred to networking, interconnecting, communicating the experiences of the different countries in order to set a common strategy in the global organization of this activity. Because all in all, what's in the center of the whole playful sports activity is man, the human being with his or her needs, psychophysical, not only physical, but also psychological needs. And so he has cast the focus on this aspect that is really essential, the attention to the human person and the care of the person through this sport that requires a high level of attention, commitment, engagement. It's a very interesting activity, archery, field archery specifically in the woods. And this is recalling the culture of the environment, care for nature, respect for the others. Because we live in a common home. We are citizens of this world. And we have to cultivate not only brotherhood amongst peoples, but also the protection of our environment, the values of peace and brotherhood. So it's an extremely important evidence, and I really thank Martin Coini. And now we leave the floor to... So we have here in the agenda, my apologies. Now we have Andrea Rosini of FIARC, who is the Italian representative of this archery in the woods. Is going to talk about the Italian experience. You have the floor. Thank you. I'm Andrea Rosini. I'm the national head. Sorry, there's a technical problem for us interpreters because there's the music in our headphones. Sorry. I apologize. We're informing the technicians about that. We really cannot hear the speaker. Sorry.
Ah, interessante.
Now we can. So archery is a reason to bring persons out of the cities in touch with nature. My testimony would like to be an evidence that brings a different perspective as to what we have seen right up to now, because I've thought that time has come to reason not only from the perspective of the federal structure, but the perspective of those who operate on the field. That's why my intervention is really hands-on, touch-on. I want to bring this personal perspective. A perspective of a vision from the field, what happens in a sports promotion association, more concretely. So what we do is to propose in a 20-hour training program the experience of archery. So in 20-hour training, of course, structured more than one day, we bring a person who never used archery to a situation where this person knows how to launch arches autonomously in the wood and in safety, how to launch these arrows. So all this is done exclusively through the contribution of volunteer members. And for us, the key word to engage the volunteering members, and I think that all our realities are based a lot on voluntary people. The difficulty is always to find a motivation for the volunteers. So the key word that I'm here to propose you is enthusiasm. It is enthusiasm that helps people connect, that stimulates people to act, and is such that things can be successful. Enthusiasm is also the reason for which a person to whom I'm explaining what archery is all about, in our experience, of course, as I said, enthusiasm is the reason for which this person that I'm telling what archery is then comes to perform archery with me. I'm not providing cold information. I'm transmitting an information that is full of emotions, full of what is my enthusiasm. So, from my viewpoint, enthusiasm is really a key factor. And I would like to go back to what Alexa from Romania just said. She called it energy. It's energy. Come to play traditional dances with me, you're going to see our energy. The same goes for me. I believe we are talking exactly of the same thing. So, well, You have seen probably on the screen some images that we have taken with the contribute of volunteers in our fields, and it was a spot that an advertisement at the Milan exposition to promote archery in the field of mobility tourism. Thank you so much. It has been an honor for me to be here. Thank you.
È un onore ad avervi.
It is an honor for us to listen to your contributions, and you're really a lively element of our society. So I think that traditional games and sports start from the very bottom of society. So from citizens, what our friend Rosini says is very important. He talks about enthusiasm, the enthusiastic approach and culture to spread out and to diffuse these sports, these disciplines that are mainly related to the work of many volunteers. And in Italy, we haven't got so many sport volunteers. The first place is for the countries like Holland or Belgium and Finland. So we need to have the same numbers. These countries that I've just mentioned, they have about more than 80% volunteers devoted in the field of sport. So they dedicate their free time to sport, to promote and to help within the sport initiatives and projects. So sports are very important for our well-being, for our health, not just for our physical health, but also the psychological health. We have just experienced the pandemics, and we're trying to get out of it, to remove the pandemic's effects from our life. So we really need to look at sport as one of the opportunities. Gernante Barticure from Latvia, and is going to share with us the experience. Germante, that's her name. Thank you.
Very short. I just want to share some thoughts about the way we create and we try to integrate traditional sports in Lithuanians' sport life. As you know, Lithuanians are a basketball nation, and sometimes it's very hard to make visible and well-known traditional sports. I represent Lithuanian Association Sport for All. Our association units more than 20 different traditional and not traditional sports organizations, and they find a way to make more visible traditional sports games in organizing one big event to making a one place traditional and not traditional sports. I want to share you a short video, and okay, no, the video doesn't working. Yeah, but the main idea was that in one festival, then we have about 50 different sport activities. We include very famous Lithuanian sports like basketball, football, and on the same time we invited organizations to play horseshoe throwing games, which we organizing here, and at the same time we organize archery, frisbee, and I'll check, frisbee and disc golf. Actually, we have one very old traditional game. It's called Lithuanian Rybka. I think that they don't have translation in English because it's very, very old sport. And I really wanted to show it on the video, but it doesn't work. So yeah, it's actually all what I wanted to say, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also, our Latvian representative reminded us the importance of TAFISA and the World Organization of Sport for All. Now I give the floor to Desarina. I hope I'm not wrong with her name, in pronouncing her name.
And I'm from Latvia, from Latvian Sports for All Association. I'm just one part of it. My other 9 girls are right now on the fields and showing our games that we brought here. So those who don't know where is Latvia, Latvia is that is our country. And today I will show you a small case study that I tried to want to share with you today. And overall, in Latvia, we are almost 2 million people, a bit less, and we have more than 150 sports federations and associations for different kind of sports. And one of those are traditional, not traditional, Latvian Sport for All Association, because of our history after the Second World War. As you know, we were occupied by Russians, and we before we came here, we really wanted to search what is our traditional games, and because of the history, I think we don't have them, and we are big dancers and big singers. That's why the traditional part of us is involving dancing and singing. But I will explain the case study that I brought today. So I come from the city which is over 180 kilometers away from capital city, and in my city lives 20,000 people, and we have there one industrial place, which was made to a place where people want to go every evening or every holidays, because there is a place for different kind of sports. So the case is the Dolomite mine was changed to the place where people can come and do sports. Play. So the short history. So the mines were found early 1900, yeah, and that was main place where to get dolomite. And around 1966. Government planted trees to avoid the sand which is going from the mines to the city. And they made the big, around 200 square kilometers, I think. Kilometers, okay. 20 square kilometers of plantation of trees to avoid the sand going to the city. And in 1986, forest developers created a healthy walking and running trails in that forest that they planned. And those dolomite mines, when they dig the dolomite, they found the water, and all the 158 hectares, I don't know what a huge amount of water came out of the ground and flooded the mines. And now this place is the best place where you can go to swim, the cleanest water in the city. So and slowly that park was developed. They made the courts for different kind of team sports. They made this golf park. They made, we call it Blue Flag Beach. It's a beach where it's safe to swim, and you have lifeguards and yeah. Then we made a slide track there because we in that industrial area before we make a hill from industrial trashes like concrete or cement, and we are making a skiing hill from those. I will show you after in a video. You can see. So, yeah, and in the territory of the Measure Parks, as you can see, there you can get a free workout sessions with the trainers. You can get a free equipment that you can play tennis, golf, table tennis, disc golf, and other games. So there are concrete basketball court and beach volleyball courts, slide track, cross-country skiing equipment in the winter time. In the summertime, you can rent a boat, SUP, kayak, water bikes. We have also wake park there, children's playgrounds, different kind of trails, and also a track around the water reservoir. So and today that place from industrial park is a place where families with kids come and spend their free time, and also the tourists come and spend their weekends. And the top activities that what we do, there is one good tradition which is more than 36 years already. We have half an hour run in that newly sanded forest, half an hour bike ride, 1 kilometer swim in that water area, triathlon rally, 3x3 basketball, beach volleyball, disc golf, orienting competitions, sports days, and etc. So, and in the picture it looks like that. Different kind of activities for different age groups and target groups. Yeah, and also in the wintertime, some fishing competitions and so on. And yeah, I would like you to see the video from our last sport day, how we interact and what we do in that Measure Parks area. So, if you can help with the video. And you can listen some Latvian. yeah, and do it in one place, a different kind, and use the space that we have, the water and the hill and the forest and yes. So come visit Latvia, and if you have some questions, I can answer. Thank you.
Grazie di questa bellissima
Thank you for your experience. Thank you very much. I have never been there. It is a fantastic country, and you have a great organization. We should have it as a model for your outdoor sports and games. This is a real fantastic example, and your enthusiasm too, so we should follow your example. It is very important what you have shared with us here. Thank you very much. It is an example for us loving traditional sports and games. When we see these experiences, we feel like we want to start practicing these sports and games. Thank you very much. And now, I think that even if you are a sedentary person, when you see these films, you feel like doing these sports and games.
Allora, qui abbiamo.
And now is Angel Gomez Navarro, who's going to talk about the experience in Valencia in Spain. Oh, he has already spoken. I'm sorry. Now we give the floor to Chiara Volonté. It's coming from Italy, from Saronno, and she is going to talk about something beautiful. She's going to talk about touch ball.
First of all, let me thank you for this invitation to talk. I will speak it Italian. So it's chukbol. Yes, it's an onomatopoeic. It cannot be translated. The sound of the ball on the net. And we really cannot translate this word. Only in Taiwan it has been translated, and they have a worse name. It's chaukucho. Chaukucho is even, it means something like to spit. Anyway, looking at these wonderful movies of the colleague, I would say that the next edition, we could add the chukball, because there is also the beach version on the grass, on the playground, as you will see from my movie. It is adaptable to many different situations. So let me introduce myself quickly. I'm a teacher of physical exercise at the high school. Basically, I've been teaching at motor sciences for 16 years, and on the human movement, that includes the teaching of many games. So popular games, sports that I do not call minor sports. I really don't want to call it like this. Emerging sports is better, because we are just less famous, but give us time and we will grow. Football started the championship when it had only 5 teams. Football in 2007 started with 7 clubs. So we are really advanced, but we started in 2007 and it started earlier. So all these games that, to me, play a role in enriching the motor heritage, but also the cognitive skills, relational skills, of interacting in a different situation, completely different from the other sports, which are, of course, valid, but it's really enriching, and we can have a wider scope. So I'm a teacher as my background. In 1906, I've seen this sport in Argentina, and I really liked the sport. At the beginning, I didn't think at founding federations, but I brought this sport in the school. And for example, in Italy, the Italian movement started from the schools, and then we reached an international level. For 12 years, I've been vice president of the International Federation. In fact, this presentation was for Interact of Tafisa. The email that you find in the final slide is wrong. If you need my email, I will provide it to you personally. So a little background. We are not a traditional sport because it was created in the 60s and presented in the 70s by Dr. Herman Brandt. But it comes as a background, it comes from a popular game, the pelota basca, because Dr. Brandt, that was a medical, a sports physician who used to rehabilitate after accidents, performing research and studies, he verified that the accidents were for 70, 80% due to physical problems. So he wanted to find a sport that would reduce accidents really at the minimum. So he brainstormed for 10 years and he tried to be inspired by other team sports, among which the pelota basca. If you don't know it, it's based on the bouncing of the ball against a wall. And so our score is marked through this bouncing against a small door. And he also found that these are the first pictures of the 60s in the garden of Dr. Brandt. Using rehabilitation, he used this strange structure to perform rehabilitation for accidents at the lower limbs. So when I heard the colleague of archery talking about rehabilitation, it really resounded in me because sport, and we are working as sport therapists, is absolutely one of the channels, the biggest enabler to go back to a normal life after an injury or even after something serious like an accident that creates a bone marrow injury. If you think Stoke Mandeville, they founded the Paralympic movement because they tried to rehabilitate the soldiers who were at war and underwent serious injuries. So we were presented in the 70s. Then, unfortunately, Dr. Brandt died. The movement stopped. But in the 80s, it was discovered by a representative of the Ministry for Education in Taiwan. It was brought in Asia, where now it is very popular. In Taiwan, there is a scholarship for the national players. I will try to briefly show you. This is our door, 1 meter size, 80 by 80. The net, to score, you have to hit the net, the smaller one, the internal part, so the colored bands are not valid. You keep the ball in one hand like in handball, size 2 or 1 for children. Our field is very simple and very simple to be set up. These are the same perimeter lines of basketball with just 2 small prohibited zones of 3 meters as array. So also here in Pian de Massiano, we have set this space really quickly because the doors are foldable and can enter even in a small car. So these are the multi-sport events. We participate a lot because really it's a sport for all, for children, kids, for the primary school, and it is flexible in terms of capabilities. It's really adaptable, so it can be applied at different ages. I'm a player, I'm not that young. I have a team of my peers, but it can be started also at the primary school because the basic skills to play it is to send and receive the ball and to launch in this door. It's a 1 meter height door, so it's really in the right range for kids. It's not far away, it's not too high. With kids, we reduce the area to 2 meters, 0.5, we reduce the dimensions of the field. This is instead the competitive level because in the development of the sport, we moved from playing in the garden, as you've seen with Dr. Brandt, it became an actual sport. So there is an international federation in Taiwan with 52 federations, and we are present in different countries in the world. So this presentation was done for Interact, and so it simply explains the rules. I don't want to bore you with rules. I will give you some links if you want to look at the rules, otherwise it will be too long. Instead, I want to show you from the social point of view, social integration and the projects we have to testify how this sport has a huge potential that is unexplored yet because we are not that very well known. So my task now is focused on disseminating the sport because, as the colleague said, energy and emotions, empathy, we call it passion. And so we want to show that we are passionate for what we do, because passion is driving us to do, because we are all volunteers promoting our activity. It can be played in many different contexts. Also because in our regulation there's not the possibility to push each other, to hit each other. So it's easily playable. You can see many ages. There's a man, a young girl, and they can all play together with no problem at all. Here another slide of a competitive match. This can be played on the field, as you can see, and so the ground condition has to be smooth, nothing else. You trace the lines like for the beach, and you put the panels, the boards, and you can play. Sorry, I've skipped an important slide. On the road, on the beach, and at the basic level, as I said, it is really immediate. And most of all, we educate the gender equality. It's a mixed sport, male and females together. So we let children grow with this idea up to the middle school. Girls are even stronger because the developmental age is earlier in girls. And so the young students really want to play together. So also sport in a mixed combination of girls and boys really works very well also outside of the school in many educational contexts like parishes or other places. If you don't have panels, it's not a problem. We are resilient, we are flexible, we can adjust with other surfaces without changing the rules of the game. You can see a structure that is made up of wood in different African countries. We send a net and they build up their boards, wood boards or old basket boards. Of course, the size of the area is can be changed, so you can play really in many different ways with springboards and other items. This is another field we are really proud of. We, as Italians, first in the world, we have adjusted the sport to the wheelchair, working for many years in the adaptation. Since 2008 to 2011, the International Federation has officially recognized the regulation of wheelchair football. It is used in Guarda Milan Hospital for the spine unit. And we had the first game as a presentation during the World Championship in 2011. In 2018, at the European Championship, we had the first international match with foreign clubs. So with the help of Hungary and UK, we are starting to promote wheelchair football in Europe. Here they are peers because, of course, again, we can have a match with different age groups all together on the beach, whole families. Thanks to these characteristics, there are open tournaments. There's a grandmother in the middle, 4 daughters, and the parents all playing together. In the school, even where there are no official fields, it's really easy to set it. Another aspect, an interconfessional, interreligious tournament in Pakistan. Muslims and Catholics, men and women played together. The basic group in Pakistan is Catholic, and they have also Muslims playing. The same goes with street children in Uganda. The easiness of building the equipment, and so we send volunteers in Africa from Europe and other countries. And so you can see that here we are in Colombia, Sierra Nevada with children, Haiti, and so on. So those of you who wish more information, feel free to write the email address. You have to change the final part. It's .eu and no longer .org. Thank you.
Vorrei ringraziare particolarmente.
Let me thank the final speaker, Chiara Volonté. she talked about something that is very important. Not touchball by itself, which is of course very important, but the solidarity and the humanitarian aspect of this sport that is connected to traditional sports and games. So I would like to draw some conclusions from our meeting this morning. First, let me thank FIGEST that made this event possible, and the whole organization, TAFIS as well, and take back some keywords that emerged today. I wrote down participation, enthusiasm, voluntarism, protection of the environment, networking, health, and most of all, peace, solidarity amongst peoples, and the attention for the human person, the community personalism, the care for the relational dimension of the human person that results in the practice of non-competitive and traditional games and sports. This communitarian personalism is rooted in the French philosophers Jacques Maritain, Manuel Mounier, Paul Ricoeur, and more specifically, I remember an expression, a statement by a philosopher that I really cherished, Paul Ricoeur, who gave the definition of a threefold structure of a person: the wish to live a life with and for the others in the right institutions. I think that this is the philosophy that underpins the whole action of TAFISA and FIGEST, that of revealing in this communitary personalism that urgent need of the presence of the others, the social and relational context in which man finds its full development. Let me conclude with the words of Article 2 of our Italian Constitution. That is an example for everyone, because in Italy it was written in 1947 by the founding fathers of our Constitution, but I am a jurist, and it has a special and useful influence also in our reflection on the playful and sports dimensions of life, because it refers to the principle of solidarity. The Constitution refers to this principle, stating that the Republic recognizes and guarantees the unalienable rights of man, both as single persons and social organizations, where the personality is developed and requires the fulfillment of the essential rights of political, economic, and social solidarity. I think that FIGES and TAFISA and all the non-competitive sports associations are those social organizations where the personality of man in the community is developing. A person without the relational dimension is not existing. A person is not a single entity, it's a being that finds a reason for living and recognizing the other. This also goes through sports practice and social inclusion, so not feeling excluded or marginalized, but being part of a whole, growing in a world where each one of us is caring for the other. So that's the meaning of solidarity. That's why I thank you, and I would conclude and finalize our meeting by thanking you so much.
E grazie di nuovo.
So thank you again.